Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Bible. Today on our show, I'm going to speak about Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. So this qualifies as a Christmas movie and a Christian movie, if it qualifies as a movie at all. I finally got a chance to see this on the internet, and this was rated given 0% by Rotten Tomatoes. And a lot of people online have said it's like one of the worst films of 2014 or whatever it came out. And I was like, I have to see this. Gotta see this. And so finally watched it. Took an hour and a half when I should be looking for a place to live. Moving soon when I made this video. And had a great time watching it. Before I get into the movie, I'll get into the reviewers, which is funny. But if you watch, there's some reviewers who have been Christian reviewers who are like, oh, this is a great movie, great movie about Christmas. And then there's other people who reviewed this movie and said, this is the worst piece of thing that you could ever see, but it's so bad, it's glorious. And so the Cinema Snob and Stone Gremlin Productions they do a series of religious videos on religious movies. And they had 3 of these videos, which were reviews of people in a car just sitting there and ragging about the movie and how silly it is. So, now that I've teased you with all that, what is it about this movie that's so ridiculous? The movie is about Kirk Cameron playing, I guess, Kirk. And he's supposed to be at his sister-in-law's house for Christmas. Interestingly enough, in the movie, they don't mention whether Kirk is supposed to be married, but I don't remember seeing his wife in this movie. But the idea is that they're at this house for Christmas, and then the brother-in-law's being all grumpy because he says, Christmas is a pagan holiday. It has nothing to do with Jesus. And so Kirk Cameron ends up going into the car and telling them all about how it's about Jesus. The movie starts with Kirk Cameron drinking hot chocolate in sort of kind of masterpiece theater type. I can't believe I'm saying it like that. Explaining about Christmas and the Christmas stuff, and then when it gets into this, it's not a movie. It becomes into a fictional documentary. I don't know how to describe it. It's like one of those. I remember watching these type of, because I'm a church boy. I remember watching some of these movies or videos which were 30-minute long. Here's the real story of Christmas, or I don't remember if I even seen one like that. But here's the real story of such and such, or some topic, and you have these kind of badly edited videos. That's kind of what this is because it's not really a story. The story is very simple. It's like, I'm going to talk to my brother-in-law in the car, tell him what the real meaning of Christmas is, and then at the end, he's going to come and have Christmas with us. That's the literal story of the movie. Literally. That literally is the plot. And what you have is him, basically, his brother-in-law brings an argument, and so he'll say something like, well, actually, all this stuff, everything that you see, you're wrong. You're wrong about everything. And you almost want to say, Kirk Cameron, actually, we're saying the same thing about you. And what he starts off with is basically explaining that all the stuff, every single thing about Christmas is related to Christmas. So from the decorations, the tree, to everything else. So he starts with a simple thing being the nativity manger, and explains what the real nativity, what his quote in quote, the real nativity manger would look like. Then he gets into the Christmas tree, and it's clearly they're not even clearly at a place where it sells Christmas trees. It's clearly just some part of a warehouse that was backlit to be the set. And then the next one after that is you have I wish I had a picture of it. You'll just have to Google it and watch it yourself. I won't actually. That's one of the things I won't spoil. Is go find that picture of Santa Claus. So you see this picture. You see him imagining this picture of this angry man as Santa Claus, and just sort of staring at the screen for a good 2 minutes at least. And then he gets into explaining, and the Browns all saying like Santa Claus equals Satan. You know what I mean? And Kirk Cameron explains that Santa Claus was actually Saint Nick. No, that part is true. some parts of Santa Claus's myth and storyline come from Saint Nicholas, but I don't know why, but we never. Kirk Cameron gives at that point about Santa Claus. He never even says about the point that Saint Nick, the real Saint Nick, gave gifts to kids, and part of the legend of the real Saint Nick is that he gave kids and went, give gifts. They don't really get into that. They just sort of bypass. They sort of gloss over that a little bit. It's like the end of his story, and it's more about him being like this. It looks like something from a show called like Vikings, or like that new Revenant movie with Leonardo DiCaprio or something. And it's like he's like, this is the Lord of the Rings, and and he beats the crap out of someone who is debating about the Council of Nicaea about the theology of Christ being born, and it's just ridiculous. And then finally, after all these arguments are laid out, and some of the arguments are really silly, like Christmas trees are actually like representing the tree of life in Genesis and everything else, you have him finally get to the point where he's like, oh, you're right. And you're looking at the clock, because I'm looking at the clock of the video, and it says 50 minutes. So we still have 30 minutes left. And it takes 5 minutes for him to finally say, okay, you know what, I'll go into the house and apologize to my wife. And instead of giving her like a kiss, he decides to get into this extended music video thing of like a Christmas song, and it looks like, amateur church productions, and again, Rock is Born, which is what the name of this channel is an amateur production. Go watch the Rock is Born 2010. I'm pretty sure our choreography is pretty close, or wow. So they do a song and they just drag out that last 10 to 15 minutes out, really stretch it out. This could have been a funny 20-minute episode of a TV show. There was a show back in the 90s with Dan Aykroyd, which was he was an episode of Home Improvement even. He played a character who was called the Soul Man. He was in other words, he was an Anglican pastor, widowed, and Dan Aykroyd, an episode of that would have made sense. An episode of like Growing Pains. This could have been an episode of Growing Pains, or an episode of like one of those family shows from the 80s. Not an hour and 10 minutes, and again, even at an hour and 10 minutes, they drag it out. So would I recommend it? If you want to see a good cinema or a good film, no, not at all. But if you want to laugh at like something that's just so completely crazy in terms of like how bad it's edited, and even the camera shakes, and the way that this story goes, and you're like, there's no story actually. It's not a documentary, and are you supposed to take this stuff seriously? I don't know. I guess it's supposed to. I guess the moments in between are supposed to be comedic. Maybe they were meant to. Maybe they weren't. I don't know. Or maybe it was just so badly written that it became comedic. But 0 out of 10, and by 0 out of 10, I'm giving it the high thumbs up if you love watching a really bad movie, so bad it's so funny and so enjoyably bad. Something that you definitely have to put on while you and your buddies are drinking eggnog, or having some Christmas party. If you guys want to have a Christmas party and you want a recommendation for a movie to have your friends watch this film, and just get a laugh out of it. And as far as one last minute, because I like keeping these minutes about 10 minutes, unlike Kirk Cameron stretching it to an hour and a half, in terms of the theology of the story, he is off base. Kirk Cameron's definitely off base in terms of things that you could just do a Google search or Wikipedia, and he's stretching a lot of this stuff out in terms of like the material gifts are kind of like Jesus becoming material. No, the material gifts are kind of a representation of gifts. I mean, why didn't he even just use the common sense one? It would have been like, well, the wise men give gifts to baby Jesus, so just as the wise men give gifts to baby Jesus, we give gifts to other. I don't know. I don't know if there's a real like the meaning of Christmas and getting into all these symbolism. And I freely admit as a Christian that some of it is taken from other traditions that we're just incorporating into Christian tradition. But again, I think that in terms of even his documentary style arguments, they are kind of extreme, hyper, like, it's just like, you go like, where do you get this stuff? Some of it is true in terms of St. Nicholas. Yeah, there's a Christmas tree. I've heard the one about the cross before. But for the most part, it's just Looney Tunes, and it's fun. Go watch Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. Have a happy holiday when you do.